In the news this week, backlash against juvenile abuse sparks protests across Australia.
Plus, new laws may force meth addicts into drug rehab.
And on Western Perspective, do the crime, do the time. The effect of child abuse on communities in Australia.
This is the Evening News with Ivan Lung and Daniel Staniskov.
Good evening. The aftershock of ABC Four Corners report into Northern Territory's juvenile abuse continues, with rallies held in major capital cities. In an exclusive interview, Police and Community Youth Centre CEO described the treatment of young victims as intolerable. Helene Fong begins our coverage.
Just days after Four Corners report into Don Dale's juvenile abuse cases, outraged citizens responded by attending protests across the nation. They are demanding that the government release footages of deaths in custody and close down youth detention centres.
This is a chance to push for change and for demanding release of footage to be released of deaths in custody or youth detention centres to be improved more.
Although Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull responded by announcing a royal commission into the Don Dale incident, protesters argued that it's not enough.
It has been going on for too long. Torturing kids, torturing adults, locking them up for 23 hours a day, it's not good enough.
Police and Community Youth Centre Chief Executive John Gillespie believed the government should be looking at alternative methods rather than locking up troubled youths.
I think before we even get them into that stage or going to a detention area, I think it's really important that they actually don't go there first, they go to some other intervention program rather than see themselves being placed in those detention centres and having to face those conditions.
Meanwhile, Opposition Leader Bill Shorten is now urging Mr Turnbull to visit the Northern Territories to discuss the inquiry directly with Indigenous leaders. Helene Fong, WAMN News.
The state government is now considering new laws to force methamphetamine addicts into rehab. The proposed legislation is similar to New Zealand's drug rehab laws, which allow family members to apply for mandatory treatment for their loved ones. Nelson Liu with the details.
It's a controversial new plan, forcing people addicted to methamphetamine into rehabilitation, but the state government says there's little alternative.
There's no doubt that there is an increased meth use in the community. We are suffering because of that, and we need to do something else along with what we're doing now.
The idea is being trialled in New Zealand, where people worried about their drug-addicted family members can turn to the courts to force them into treatment. But the state government has been criticised for its approach to solve WA's limited drug assistance.
We are not copying and pasting. We are not just transferring another piece of legislation into ours. We will make the changes, we will get it to work for us.
The state opposition says they'll get on board if it works, but says the government should have acted sooner.
We have the worst rate of usage of methamphetamine of any state in Australia, and the government has done very little to address this issue.
The state government says compulsory drug rehabilitation would help families get drug-addicted members help currently unavailable, but the opposition is sceptical, questioning why it's taken 2 terms in government to formulate a plan. New legislation will be drafted this year, but won't reach Parliament before next year's state election. Nelson Liu, WAMN News.
A new public transport plan has been released this week, showing Perth's future network to accommodate a population projected to grow to 3.5 million. The plan includes expansion of trains, buses, light rail, roads and bicycle paths in the metropolitan area. Transport Minister Dean Nalder said the proposal was developed by experts over a 2-year period. But the opposition questioned why it took the government 8 years to put forward a plan.
Remember, this is a government that's been there for 8 years and have the resources of Treasury, of major departments. To bring out this document after 8 long years with no firm commitments means greater uncertainty for the WA public.
Journalists at the West Australian newspaper are preparing for forced redundancy measures, with reports saying their editorial positions will be slashed as the paper plans to merge with the Sunday Times. The MEAA-WA president expressed his concerns over the cuts and fears it will affect democracy and media diversity.
We're in a very difficult situation, and it's been acknowledged by people at the West themselves, for instance, and that's why they are suggesting that they've had to make these redundancies.
Hillary Clinton has accepted nomination as the Democratic Party's presidential candidate. The nomination makes Ms. Clinton the first female nominee for a major political party in the United States. Despite the controversy surrounding the party's alleged bias towards Bernie Sanders, she vows to become the president for all Americans and said her rival Donald Trump will divide America.
So, my friends, it is with humility, determination, and boundless confidence in America's promise that I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
Officials confirmed the flight simulator owned by MH370's captain was used to plot a course to the southern Indian Ocean. The FBI's analysis report shows the captain conducted a flight simulation similar to the missing route. Australia's JACC also issued a statement appearing to imply such route was found in the simulation device. However, Malaysian Transport Minister rejected FBI's analysis, saying there is no evidence to prove that the captain plotted the route before he flew the plane.
And finally this week, the Return Service League WA is requesting Pokemon Go creators to remove its characters from war memorial sites across the state. The association recognised the game's popularity but believes war memorial sites are sacred areas and it should be treated with respect.
I think there's a general groundswell of trying to get the developers of that software package to think about maybe removing the figures from places of remembrance and worship.
And those are the top stories you need to know this week. We have the latest news on our website and Facebook.
Time for Western Perspective. Have a great week. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks, Ivan and Danielle. Hello and welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Nelson Liu.